Despite battling the oppressive heat and clouds of flies, mine workers and visiting dignitaries were all smiles for the official opening of the $27 million operation. Minister for Mineral Resources Bob Martin did the honours. The open-cut coal mine, which has provided employment for about 70 people in the depressed Gloucester area, is expected to generate about $2 billion and 24 million tonnes of coal in its lifetime. Spurred on by the export successes in Asia of the Stratford mine, its owners have decided to bring forward plans for a new open-cut mine 20 kilometres east of the existing site. Mine Workers Union representatives today welcomed the move, which will create jobs for another 70 people.
It means jobs, and as the Minister said today, that for every miner's job there's 4 associated jobs, so the whole community benefits from it.
The company expects to submit an environmental impact statement for the new mine to the Great Lakes Council by March next year. It is forecasted construction will then begin by August or September. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Stephen Forjacks was elated today. His company Forjacks Floating Dockyard has clinched a major defence contract to refit 2 Navy ships. The HMAS Manoora and HMAS Canimblo were bought from the United States Navy last year. The ships had been used to deliver tanks and troops to beaches. Forjacks will convert them to training and helicopter support vessels.
The last 9 years since I take the dock over, we become a #1 ship repairer in Australia, and we've done a lot of Navy work, and they're very, very happy what we've done in the past, and I'm sure this one is making more happier.
Forjacks has teamed with Transfield Defence Systems to undertake the project. Transfield will provide design services. Forjacks estimates this naval contract will create an extra 250 casual and permanent jobs. The work will take about a year to complete. The contract is worth at least $60 million, but Stephen Forjacks wouldn't confirm the exact amount.
Definitely be more than that.
Today's announcement follows the news that Forjacks will also carry out a $6 million refit to HMAS Westralia. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Customs House is one of the oldest buildings in Newcastle. Located on the foreshore, it will be converted into a European-style cafe.
It's really going to create a revitalisation of the East End. It's going to bring a link between the foreshore and the East End area in the CBD of Newcastle.
Gabrielle McCabe and her husband Damon run the Blackbutt Hotel and the Parkview Hotel at Islington. The licensing court yesterday allowed them to transfer the Parkview Hotel licence to Customs House. Customs House will cater for 650 people.
It's taken probably 2 years, but it's been well worth it.
After the earthquake, the federal government spent $4 million restoring the building. The McCabes will spend a further $1 million. Work is expected to begin in the new year. The cafe should open in April.
Emergency crews know they're in for a long night. There's a waiting list of 172 calls for help, and volunteers are working around the clock at 46 other shattered locations. Backup is on its way from Sydney and Cessnock, but for those in need, it's a long wait. Jennifer Rolls and her family won't stay in their home tonight, but she's grateful they're alive after a tree landed on the lounge her daughter was sitting on.
We sort of started hearing this tumbling noise on the roof, and I thought, well, there's a few twigs going. And next minute, there was a tree in the lounge room, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. But we are lucky because my daughter could have been killed, and that's the main thing. Nothing else is as important.
The Rolls family is not alone. Rescue workers say more than a dozen homes have been destroyed, hundreds of others damaged. Residents are still in shock. Emergency personnel are amazed no one was seriously injured.
This would have been the worst storm activity in the mainland area in history. It's probably comparable to a lot of the storms that have menaced Sydney.
While the storm lasted only a few minutes, its effect will be long felt by those who have lost home and property. It's estimated the damage will take months to repair.
The remarkably named Phoenix still wears the scars from his terrible ordeal, but it's a miracle that he's even alive.
It was shocking, yeah, and the stench of the burnt flesh was overpowering.
At first it was thought he would have to be put down, but a month of tender loving care has him set for a long and healthy life.
He's been having saline baths twice a day just to keep it moist and keep the skin clean. Antibiotics he's been on. He's having heaps of food to keep his energy levels up.
We would expect some scarring of the tissue that's been burnt, but I expect him to make a full recovery over the next couple of months.
Phoenix returned home today, but it hasn't reduced the anger over a senseless, brutal attack.
How anyone could, commit this sort of crime, and that's what it is just completely barbaric.
Police are still investigating the incident. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
More than 500 representatives turned up for the Gala Awards dinner at Ballina on the far north coast. The competition is organised by New South Wales Keep Australia Beautiful Council to encourage and recognise good environmental practice. Newcastle City Council most impressed the judges, taking out the overall Metro Pride Award with a huge portfolio of projects, including the Scott Street Convicts Lumberyard, Newcastle Cleaner Water Scheme and the Summerhill Waste Depot. The students of Arimba Public School couldn't believe their luck after their Rainforest Access and Regeneration project won the New South Wales Schools Environment Award. It also won the overall Metropolitan Schools Award. Hamilton North Public School placing second with its Frog Habitat project. The state's Tidy Town of the Year was Kiama, south of Wollongong, its local environment plan making the difference against a tough field of over 200 New South Wales communities. Heather Stewart, NBN News.
This is what Newcastle Council and local police want to prevent. In past years, hundreds of people have gathered at Jefferson Park across from the Beaches Hotel in Merewether to celebrate the new year. But the morning after has always been a headache for Council as workers clean up broken glass and tons of rubbish. This year, however, revellers consuming alcohol won't be allowed in the park. Signs have been erected warning of the change.
Hoping the message will get through and people can make some plans prior to New Year's Eve.
And those who ignore the rule face a $500 fine.
We've gone to the extent of having 2 police officers and probably 2 ordnance officers who'll be rostered on for the night.
Police and council are keen to see celebrations centred on the foreshore. Once again, the area will be cordoned off and closed to traffic. Council has still to decide on whether there'll be a show of fireworks. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
At the federal government's job creation conference today, consultation committees from 62 regions came together to attack the problem of unemployment and training in regional Australia. Prime Minister Keating reaffirmed the Working Nation policy's commitment to grassroots solutions.
Because now in some of the regions they're growing much faster than the capital cities. A lot of the employment opportunities in some of the regions, we're trying to get regional leadership up, we're trying to give regions focus.
The Hunter Region Committee tabled a report prepared by Dr Roy Green and Julia Connell from the University of Newcastle. The study of training needs in the region found that 42% of businesses had difficulty recruiting the right staff and that 16% thought their employees' skills were not up to scratch. Dr Green blames the dissatisfaction on a lack of commitment to training and teaching multiple skills in the workplace.
Only a proportion of our workplaces are prepared to commit the necessary resources to training. Not all workplaces have fully understood the importance of training to their success.
The modern employee must be flexible and able to take on a high level of responsibility, according to Dr Green. But he says those skills cannot be plucked out of the air, they must be taught. It's hoped the result of the Job Creation and Training Conference will be to create regional strategies for improving training at the local level. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
They gave me the script and had Fat Woman. But I have 3 names in this show. 1 I can tell you and 2 I can't. And I'm wearing a fabulous costume of... Well, I'm a surprise. So I can't tell you what it is, except that it's a great costume.
Which has just finished its season in Brisbane. Former host of Take 40 TV, Rod Ansell, starring in Gothic at the present time. Mark Drury, I can...
Nurses, doctors, cleaners, people of any job description, as long as it involves a hospital, are diving into the competitive spirit, striving for gold. 1,500 hospital workers from the 4 corners of the state have found their way to Newcastle for the Games. The word on everyone's lips, good healthy fun.
Beats being at work at the hospital.
The 12 sports being fought out among the 32 hospitals involved range from the high-velocity netball to the laid-back barroom games of snooker and darts, and the approach of the contestants tends to be in keeping with their game.
And what's your strategy of the darts day?
Just to throw them.
Is that it?
That's it.
Ken, you're a doctor at a country hospital. Where on earth do you get the time to learn these snooker skills?
Misspent youth.
The Games, hosted this year by the John Hunter Hospital, continue tomorrow. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. Only yesterday it seemed the future was looking up for the 120 workers at RZM who faced the axe over a loophole in the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. Following a protest last week, the Premier committed his government to plugging up the loophole, but today the EPA added a new dimension to RZM's problems. Speaking on 2NC Radio this morning, Northern Region Director Brian Gilligan raised the alarm about excessive iron levels in subterranean water on the mining company's land.
We now have a recognition that there is pollution occurring that is attributable to a mining operation, and that mining operation does not have a pollution control licence.
The Hunter Water Corporation this afternoon moved to calm fears that the iron levels could be dangerous, saying they merely make filtration more complex.
That it makes it more expensive to treat the water and therefore make it available to the public. You can always treat the water, and we do treat it, but we would like to ensure that we've got as much of the water available as possible.
The EPA says information on iron levels recently made available to it have prompted the need for further inquiries. The environmental watchdog is considering serving a notice on the company to restrict its activities in the meantime. RZM's management says the ongoing squabble over the company's mining operation is little short of ridiculous. It says conservation groups are clutching at any reason to shut the operation down. According to RZM, the suggestion that it's creating contamination is absurd because its operations have been restricted since the last campaign by conservationists. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Gary Ellis has been suspended from his job as a highway patrol officer at Wallsend since September last year. It's being alleged in Newcastle District Court that in February 1994 he sexually assaulted a 24-year-old woman he'd earlier booked for speeding. The woman didn't have a driver's licence and gave a false name. It was at her home that Crown Prosecutor Peter Barnett said the incidents occurred, with Constable Ellis allegedly sexually assaulting the woman with his service revolver. Giving evidence today was the woman's mother, who told how Constable Ellis arrived at her home a week later to arrest her daughter for supplying the false name. She told the court it was very early and her daughter was sleeping. She said Constable Ellis paced the lounge room with his hand on his revolver. She said he was shaking and desperately out of control. He was like a lion at feeding time. She said, I was terrified. I thought he was going to shoot us. During cross-examination, Paul Rosser QC said to the woman, whether it was good judgment or not that he arrested your daughter at that hour, he behaved in a perfectly proper manner. She replied, you don't know the truth. The trial continues tomorrow. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The bat and ball has replaced the pen and paper, with these students to learn the science of spin bowling and the mathematics of a run chase.
They'll learn cricket skills for half the time, and then the other half they'll learn the background of cricket, history, physical fitness, sports psychology and those sort of aspects.
It's a giant step away from the 3 Rs, but teacher and coach Bob Wellham says it's more than just an excuse for students to get out of traditional subjects.
Bit of fun, yeah. Get outdoors, get some fresh air.
Just to give the kids another subject to do, something they enjoy. A lot of kids don't like doing the other subjects, so this is a motivational thing where they enjoy doing it, so it should be good for them.
He was helped today by disabled cricketer John Coutis, who gave pupils a lesson in catching. Year 9 and 10 students will be able to take cricket as an elective from next year. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The event consisted of a 10-kilometre swim, 145 k's on the bike, another 275 k cycle and an 84-kilometre run, all over 3 days. Kutcher set up his victory on day 2 when he broke the 275-kilometre bike record by an amazing 31 minutes. Understandably, he'll now have a month's rest before resuming training for the Foster Ironman, half the distance of the ultra event. In baseball, the Hunter Eagles will be chasing a hat-trick of series victories against the Adelaide Giants this weekend. The Eagles take on Adelaide at Maitland in the first game tomorrow, while a double-header will be played on Sunday. In League, the Country Rugby League's Boundaries Committee will meet in Maitland tomorrow to decide the makeup of Newcastle's competition for next season. Group 21 Singleton and the Central Coast Wyong are trying to move into Newcastle's premiership but are expected to face strong opposition. And in croquet, Australia has the upper hand going into the final day of the Trans-Tasman tournament at National Park. At 1 test all, Australia had won 3 of the 4 matches completed in the decider late this afternoon, with the result expected tomorrow. Lear was running 3rd in the qualifying heat of the International Challenge when he was bunted into an uncontrollable spin that saw him somersault 5 times. He walked away from the crash, as did Tony Pryor and Ian Burrow during their scrap in the Formula 500 division. Brad Cameron going on to win both his heat and the final. No such problems for US Triple Crown champion Tony Stewart, who easily won the Stars Dash, then the 25-lap final from Newcastle's Adam Clark and Sydney's Stephen Graham. In the Coca-Cola Classic for the Super Sedans, state champ John Pine overcame several incidents in the opening laps to beat Robert Carrick and Stu Robertson.
Take that bar over the top, setting up single squat combination, take it down. Raise, 2 up, 2 down. One to go. That's it. And up. That's it.
The Breakers got off to an unfortunate start with an Olympic header cannoning off Steve Hickman in the 16th minute, giving Carter no chance. The keeper was called back into action to clean up another mistake at the back moments later, preventing the Sydney side a second. But there wasn't much he could do when Walter Arden broke clear. His first time shot deflected and sat up perfectly for the header. Any hope of a comeback was quashed 7 minutes after the break when Chris Trajanovski, celebrating his 100th league game, produced the goal of the match. The last was a goal Ned Zellige would have been proud of, Norm Tomei beating Carter on the acutest of angles.
With much pomp and ceremony, Northern Division Superintendent Reg Coburn presented the medals to officers who have been in the service for 15, 25 or 35 years. Curry Station Manager Trevor Avery has spent 35 years on the job and can still remember his first day.
I started at Christmas Day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My first job was at Patterson. I was a lady with a fractured femur.
He has seen many significant changes.
The service itself, it's unreal. The cars, the way we treat the patients, the whole system's changed. Go back when we first started, you were lucky to have splints. Now we're the most modern ambulance service in the world.
After 28 years, Ron Arthur now works in the Coordination Centre at Hamilton and says the job satisfaction rate is high.
And seeing people around the road come back up to him and say, you were the ambulance officer that treated me, 6 months ago, and here I am. It does give you a real good buzz.
A special presentation was also made to Daniel Walters, whose grandfather Robert died last year after 36 years of loyal service. Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
John Barrett and John Seameck were working with Stephen Lamb the day he died. The men had been subcontracted to inspect a saltwater intake pipe at BHP. Mr Barrett told Newcastle Coroner's Court how he checked with plant operator William Hunter to make sure the pump connected to the pit they were working on was turned off. He said it was obvious, though, that within minutes of Stephen Lamb entering the water, something was wrong. Mr Lamb was eventually dragged unconscious from the pipe by Rescue Squad Officer Senior Constable Ian Borton. Mr Lamb later died in hospital. Mr Barrett denied the water looked turbulent before the dive. The fact of the bloody matter is the pumps shouldn't have been on. Mr Barrett and Mr Seameck also told of the safety precautions BHP required them to take. Although they were usually told to put danger tags on switches controlling pumps, they said that didn't occur when they worked in the saltwater pump house where the tragedy happened. But even when the men did put hazard tags on the relevant switches, problems still occurred. Just 3 months ago, a pump was mistakenly left on as the men prepared to dive near the Bloomcaster. In Mr Barrett's words, it was realised in time, thankfully. The inquest will continue in February. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
According to the study, young people from non-English speaking backgrounds comprise a silent group which needs support yet is reluctant to ask for it.
They feel that if they can keep their profile down, they won't be subjected to the taunts or the anti-racism or discrimination and so on.
At the instigation of the Hunter Ethnic Communities Council, a team of researchers surveyed young people between the Central Coast and Upper Hunter. Until now, there has been a dearth of information on the size of the group and its needs. Now governments and schools will better be able to plan around the issues facing the group. According to the Ethnic Communities Council, this means better targeting of services.
It's fine to sort of say, yes, our door is always open, but if those clients are not walking through the door, then that particular service needs to get up and go and support those clients.
The report identified racism and coping with contradictory demands by family and peer groups as some of the major issues facing young people from non-English speaking backgrounds. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.